Arrivo, baba emi alama kumpele. Arrivo, emi alama kumpele. Arrivo, baba emi alama kumpele. Arrivo, emi alama kumpele. Arrivo, baba. We live.
I'm dancing to the music.
I know. It's like we live. How you doing, sis? Sorry we wasn't on yesterday.
Oh, it's
Had to,
okay.
had
Have a
to do
good day.
billing. It was in the midst of billing, so it was like But anyway, how you doing? How was your yesterday?
My yesterday was great. I recognize that it was Ajay's day, so I just put some energy into wealth building plans for businesses that I'm working on, and some rituals that I got a lot of planning time for.
So tell us what that is.
Which one?
Yeah, you said it was. You said
Ajay. So remember, we had talked with Yeye Fayomi Faladay about the days of the week. It's in Oduo Turpon Tour. So Sunday is the day of immortality. Monday is Orisha Ajay's day. Don't get me to making up stuff. Okay,
No,
so I can remember. Today is Ishegun, which is the day of victory. Um, Tomorrow is the day of the mothers, um, and let me see exactly how they put it. Uh, the day of opening the door and going out, and then Thursday is the day when the Earth returns to its normal rotation, and Friday is a day of conflicts, arguments, and then I don't remember. I think Saturday is the day for 3 wishes or something like that. But it's in Oduo Tour Palm Tour if you need to look it up. So yeah, that was what I'm trying to get that down as a part of build it into my daily devotion, and
right
then
on.
also my daily activities to kind of refocus myself. As activity picks up and the world starts to open up again, then I just want to make sure that spiritually I'm on point with what there is for me to do so that I can be guided, by that more so than outside influences. Yeah.
Hmm. So with that being said, um, like what is today?
Today is the day for, uh, today's the day of victory. It's Ishegun. So it's also a day, customarily, and I think the Lukami tradition, it's a day for Ogun, which is, to me, it coincides because Ogun also commands momentum and forward movement, progress, and all those things will also happen when you have victory. You have forward movement, you have progression, you have all those things. So um, today is the day I'll be doing some research on a court situation I got going, and that type of thing. So yeah.
Okay. So with that being said, that's excuse me. This weekend I had a chance to watch a full series called Soul Deep. Soul Deep.
Uh-huh.
Deep. It's about 6 episodes, and it looks at the history of Black music in America, Black popular music. And one of the things that stuck out to me was a lot of things, but one of the things in reference to our conversation today, it talked about um, gospel music or spirituals and how that really is the root. It was showing you all of the links. Um, and I feel like sometimes we are at our most powerful uh, place when we allow spirit through music to really speak through us or allow us to release what we know or whatever in there. in your spiritual traditions and practices, do you incorporate music and sound and rhythm to help you worship or to allow you to be one with that energy, whatever
Yeah.
you call it?
Hmm. And
How do you do that?
sometimes it is Orisha songs that I know, and then sometimes it's just church songs that I know,
Right on.
especially because a lot of my immediate ancestors, like my grandmother, my great grandmother, they come from that church tradition. Well, it's kind of mixed because my great grandfather was like a medicine man,
Mm-hmm.
but he used Bible verses. And so that's a thing that's real prevalent in the Caribbean. Is that a root worker will use Bible verses as their utterances to provoke, and invoke. So, but those are the songs that my mother would sing when I was growing up. So over time, her relationship to those songs, I kind of took on as I grew older. And it's kind of, they are prayers. They're not just, a lot of those songs were call and response songs like, I'm gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside. You know that. But also for me, that song was instrumental in me being able to take a more receptive pose and not be so aggressive in my stance towards things, because sometimes you can get fixed on being um, you could get fixed on being so anti something that you're not really pro anything. You know
Mm.
what I mean? And so for a long time, that was my perception of being pro-Black, is that I'm totally against all these things. You know what I mean? But if you ask me specifically what it was, then the only thing I'll be able to say is that I love Black people. But it was such emotion connected to it, and I was not connected to the emotion. Does that make sense?
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah, so that was something that I had to unpack over time. Like, I felt real strongly about it always, but I couldn't put my finger on it well enough to articulate it because it was just too charged for me. So that, and I think another gospel song that I sing frequently is "I Surrender All,"
Mm.
because it these are songs that are have been prayers that my grandmother, my great grandmother, and my mother sang. So they have that energy of the continuum for me. Like, that's how I connected to them, and they place me in a more receptive state, so that I'll begin to get messages. I'll start to, they are letting me get off whatever my humanity has brought me, so that I can get my divine download.
Mm.
Love you, Iya.
We missed you. Okay. So that's interesting that you say that. So when I was watching this docu series, it's on YouTube,
Mhm.
all six of them. There was something about watching the spirituals and the way that they sang it. Um, and I don't know if you ever go to a Black Southern church, you ain't gonna never see nothing like that. One
Oh,
year on the road trip with Javon, because Javon didn't grow up with that, you know.
uh-huh.
So we was in South Carolina and we went to, it was Sunday morning and we decided to go to church with the girls. And so it was, ooh girl, it was deep. I
It's
mean,
something else. But
and so Javon
okay,
was
so
kind of in
let me
shock.
ask you this. Let me
Yeah.
ask you this, because you've also been to a voodoo ceremony, right? Where
Uh-huh.
people were possessed and all of that. How does the two compare to you?
To me, they look like the same thing. I'm not trying to
Yeah.
be funny. Like for instance, in the voodoo ceremony, they're
Mm-hmm.
like doing these dances, but like in a formation around a pole, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody's moving together. Like it is so rhythmic that if you stand in there, you immediately almost get into you start doing it, not even knowing that you're doing it. You know, you become in sync. When in black churches, when we was in the South, it felt like that. You know, it's kind of like when they started singing, immediately people started swaying, and even when people were being possessed or the Holy Ghost or whatever we gonna call it, it looked like the same thing to me. But what I really began to understand and watching them both is that music has a way of allowing you to
It is so
release
rhythmic that
that you could not.
you immediately almost get into the, you start doing it not even knowing that you're doing it.
Okay, so I think that's Ia. You have to adjust something, Ia, because I just need you to understand.
You know, it's kind of like,
Yeah. So what I learned is that black folks have a way of releasing things through dance, through that energy. Like the drum allows you to release something. The organ, you know, I'm thinking of the things we have, the guitar, the bass, or whatever it is. So it's a way for us to just release and connect with those other energies, whatever you would call that. People could call it the Holy Ghost or whatever. But to me, it's a bigger way of communing, like, you know, communicating with those energies that sometimes, so even though through the process of the enslavement, people were attempting to rob us of everything, that was the one thing they really couldn't take.
Yeah, because you can't take what you didn't make. Like, you know, our bodies are made by other humans, basically. We're crafted in the physical space, right? The body is, but the spirit is divine. Like, you can't touch that. I mean, it's a realization really for us to know that there's the greater part of us is intact.
communicating.
We just have to make the effort to connect. I also know, like, I mean, because I've been to Bembe's where people had the Orisha come down on them. And my my initial impression was that everybody catching the whole.
Hold on just a minute. Yeah, I know you were listening to us before you came on. That is still playing because that's the echo we're hearing.
Okay, I mean, I'm trying to figure out what the hell. Okay.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I love you.
It's
just that, and then we'd be good. Let me see.
It looked like somebody getting the Holy Ghost in church to me. Like you know, my family is Baptist Costal Pentecostal. Like, well, my mother's a church guy in Christ. You can't wear no pants, no makeup, no, you know, like makeup and stuff was not a priority in my household. She wore a little bit of makeup, but it was nothing to get carried away about, really. So, and which is interesting because even my Odu is about beautification. So, you know, I had worked as a hairstylist for 12 years. I love hair and makeup. I love, you know, clothes and all that stuff. My mama, she liked clothes, but she really wasn't into all of that. Like, she doesn't even shave her legs. So it's one of those things where, but I recognize also, I recognize the beauty in that. Like, my mother can eat a onion. Because my grandparents were migrant farm workers in Central California. So she would be sitting in the fields while they were working, and whatever the produce was they were picking, she would just pick and eat, you know, clean and eat whole right then. So the level of connectedness that my family has to the earth, like, we still have some farmland in Pixley that everybody visits periodically, and it's a different kind of connection. So that part of it is intact. That part of it is consistent with my spiritual discipline. So I feel like when I begin to look for the connections instead of looking at the things that were different, that it helped me to grow and connect with my ancestors in a different kind of way.
Right on. Right on. Yeah.
Yes, my dear.
Okay, let's make sure that you know you were unmuted. I started off asking Sister Ifeoma Dupe that we talked about music and how it allows you to release and allow you to be alive in your tradition, allows you to communicate. One of the things that I still love if I go to church or if I go to a bembe or a voodoo ceremony, whatever, I love watching Black people release because there is something so powerful. Yesterday I was watching there's a series last night I was watching about when you're tried in the news and they had the Amalo Diablo, what happened to that brother in the yard. And when that mom when she started wailing, and this is something that happened back in 1998, I still teared up and felt some kind of way. There is something about the sound and it's like walking in here in Mahalia Jackson and immediately you get a response, something in you. Like that's that other part of ourselves that we can't control, that we can't. You ever be somewhere and you be fighting back tears, but the tears come anyway? And you're like, I'm not gonna cry. No. But your body be like, no, we crying, boo. Like we gotta be.
We're releasing that emotion, whether you want to or not, whether it looks good or not, whether the snot's coming out of your nose or not.
Right.
This is the emotion this is the energy that's moving within you.
Yeah.
And it's got to be released.
Yeah.
So yeah, we talked about that on Friday, sound and music and how it moves us and how it brings down the Orisha or other spirit beings to communicate with us and with if we're in a group with people that are around us. So we use music, and the Black church was our salvation at one time. That's all we had was the Black church and each other. And we used that music to bring down that emotion and to release it. Because God knows we had enough emotion to work with. It's funny, you don't see that emotion in a white church.
They're in
For the most part.
They have conversations. My brother, I love my brother Ross, but he was saying when you go like to a white church, first of all, you get out on time. Like, because they have stuff to do. They go watch. They got to rest for the rest of the week. Like we would joke about it. He said, but their stuff is like they're in conversation, like a civilized conversation. Thank you, Lord. And then we're going to turn to the Book of Price, look up our sin, and pay that, and we're going to be gone. We know Black folks that with somebody that we be like something wrong with this person.
Yeah,
people know that something.
There's something not right here.
Yeah. I'm just telling you, it's just something about that experience that it draws people to you as well. Like it's just something about, I could hear something like, I'm going over there because they got something, there's something about that. I feel like I need to be over there. Yeah.
You know what comes to mind? You remember when Oprah did her salute to the Black women, or I can't remember, and they went to church on Sunday, and without any kind of planning, Shirley Caesar, the Wymans, all the rest of them, but and the what is she? The Kennedy woman. I can't remember her name.
Shriver.
Who?
Marie Shriver. Used to be married.
Oh, yes. The one. No, the one. She married Schwarzenegger.
That's Marie Shriver.
Yeah, her. She said, "Oh, something's about this. There's something going on in here." We her and her daughters. Oh dear. Because spirit came down on them people in that setting, that outdoor setting. And once we start with that music, because it comes from our emotion connects with the emotion of the singer. and the music. We're one. We come into alignment with that. We know what Shirley Caesar is talking about.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
We
You
know
know?
as soon as somebody start moaning, what's it ready to happen? Ain't
Mhm.
nothing like a moan. You be like,
Mm.
Lord, it's about to get real up in here. You can just
Yeah.
tell. Like, you know, you. I love that. The
Mhm.
lyrics, it goes like the spirit, like to that deep place. Like, I can't be playing, y'all. It's
The ancestors. The
Yeah.
ancestors. Because
Yeah.
can you imagine how they must have moaned at the time when, let's say, it was a man and his wife was taken from him to be a play toy of somebody in the big house, and he could do absolutely nothing about it. And the moan that must have come from that man, or the wife, the moan that must have come from that wife when she thought about how she was violated and had no right over her body, her feelings, her soul, her spirit. All you can do is moan. Uh, and it's a moan in conjunction with the spirit, with your ancestors. You know, please help me. You know, please bring some sanity
Yeah.
back
The
into my
words,
life.
yeah, the words are not going to express the gravity of the situation. So all you can do is try to translate the vibration and sound so you can get it off you. Like that's how we raise our vibration. Like we get it. And I would say that speaking as a singer, I have to say that there was like stage fright was a big thing for me. And it made me super self-conscious and in my head about it. And it was always problems.
Hmm.
Always problems when I had that going on. The more that I got into the release space and kind of like let the music come through you, like you have, okay, you know, from I knew from my vocal drills that the notes were there and I could just relax and let the music come through me, then it's a whole different experience. And the sound just uses the body.
Hmm.
It's not even like, you know what I mean? And I have to say that, especially most of my music has some type of spiritual context, even the most ratchet of my songs. Um, has a spiritual context. But and because of that, like in that space, you know, you try to make your words a prayer so that when it comes through you. Like there's a point that it happens. Now, I think the people I've heard articulate this best is Patti LaBelle and Della Reese.
mm,
Like there's nothing like being able to sing because it's as if um, God takes your whole body. But I imagine that's how all people feel in church when they sing it. You know what I mean? If I had to just, I can't speak to everybody's experience, but I could say that's what it appears to be, especially when you see people start falling out and doing all the other stuff. Like, besides the people who are just imitating what they've seen. Because I remember when we was little kids going to church, we would be doing all that stuff and fake speaking in tongues and playing.
y'all were being
Like we
inspired.
got the Holy Ghost and we were doing that in the room. Like that was what we did during our playtime. Have fake church and then people falling out and people laying towels over your lap and all of that.
Oh, got little babies.
But yeah, it's the vibration. That sound is nothing like it. That's why I think, you know, a lot of the old dudes are meant to be chanted.
Yes.
They're meant to be chanted because it's kind of like when you hear the Babalawos that know how to speak Yoruba do it, or either they from the continent or they just know how to do it. Like you notice the ups and downs, the inflection, and the melody of it, and it does hit differently. Like it does it transforms you in a way because that's an important part of divination. You know, my godmother didn't speak Yoruba, but what she did was probably why she's my godmother. What she did was she would just break out into a song. You know what I mean? Like if your reading came in, yeah, well, she would be like, "Bad luck is what you got." She just start singing, just randomly start singing stuff, just throughout the whole process, and it would just, it lands in your body a different kind of way. You keep it in the memory, it gains traction. Like that's
Yeah. We got to change this bad luck into some good luck. We got to get ourselves another song.
I know. So what that made me think of is I remember once going to a burial for a Muslim, black Muslim in the Bay, and when the Queen sister got up to sing the call of prayer,
Uh-huh.
it didn't sound like no call of prayer I've ever heard an Arab singing. Look here, I thought we was getting ready to bust out in the church. I'm not
the gospel version.
She sang that call of prayer. She was singing it the way that they do it, but her riffs, like her voice, she sang it like she was Patti LaBelle. Like,
man,
I was just like, wow. Like it was just a very different call of prayer. So I feel like through our experience, no matter how we put the tone on the words, it immediately turns into what it is that we need for us. Because sometimes people could be praying in their language and I don't feel it at all.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's nice. What that person just said. But we'll sing something and see how I'm shaking my head. We'd be like, I don't know what this person just said, but I felt it. Like you'd be like, go on and sing it. You have no idea what they were saying. But that rhythmic, that I don't even know what I would call it. You can feel it. It also reminded me of that scene in The Color Purple when Suge Avery was taking the bath and opened her and they started humming. And she immediately started humming with her. We know the other stuff is just that connecting. You know, when people rock and they hum. We don't even understand. Like we know that it's something. So we'll be looking at them, we start rocking. We don't even know why we're rocking. But we know we're rocking because they rocking because something's going on. It's just something really awesome. And I feel like even though some people may have came up and the background may have been Christianity or Islam, whatever, but even as we embark upon returning back to our original origins of whatever that was, there are things that you can see clearly inside of there that you know was ours. That we just use. It's kind of like Santeria. You be thinking you praying to Santa Barbara and you really praying to Congo, or you really like we have a way of bringing those gifts back home to where we got them from.
Yeah, because they came from us. Like we carry that around within us. That's what from a science perspective, DNA, right? But your blood holds your ancestral memory. You can't run from that. That's everything that you've ever been in any incarnation. You can't run from that. That's what keeps you. That's your life, basically. You know what I mean? So you don't want your blood to spill. You don't. You know what I mean? It's a preservation attached to it. Like I heard this brother say the other day. He's a priest. That the Orishas are self-preserving, and so when I think about the divine characteristics that we have, that is a characteristic that we hold. We're self-preserving, and that all that information, that's a part of what Olokun is, the protector and keeper of that consciousness of all that's happened in the human experience is at the bottom of the ocean, right? So that's how they say it. And then, so it's here. That information is always accessible. And if you think about it, like there's very little that a person can teach you. This is why This is why we have a lot of problems in the educational system. We just want to get to the blood and bone of it. One of the reasons why we have a lot of problems in the Western education is because education for us is pulling out what's already there. We are never, we're hardly ever approached with that consciousness. And that's offensive. That's offensive.
Yes.
And so there's a part of us that never connects to it because it's offensive. Some people are able to override that for whatever reason they give themselves to override it, right? It's become significant to them, that achievement of in Western education. But a lot of our children never ever connect. And they say things like, the teacher doesn't like me, or I don't feel comfortable, or people don't like me, or whatever. But that's their way of using English language to explain something that's very, like, it's esoteric, it's very fundamental. We can't, that's not how we thrive in the educational environment.
Right on.
Even how your grandmother teaches you things. Like, it might be frustrating, but she feels like somehow you already know this. Like, you know. Why you acting like it's always a correction before the lesson? Like, you already know this. So look, I'm gonna tell you again. You know what I mean? Even if you never told me that. But but the whole thing is, like, it's there. It's available to you. And when you get the urge to tell a child, use your head, that's what it is. It's like, there's a part of us that knows that this is the situation that we really live in. And then here's all the things we've been telling ourselves.
Exactly. Yeah. What popped into my mind a few minutes ago, Ro, I can't even remember what you said, but what popped into my mind, isn't that funny? Today is the 19th. Chickens coming home to roost. Yeah. Yeah. That's yeah, and Malcolm. Yeah. Yeah. Chickens coming home to roost.
One of the things I reflect on a lot with ancestors like Malcolm X and others, Dornell Hurst, and a lot of folks, is how they must have felt when they was in that moment when they realized it was just them.
When they realized
there was in a moment when they realized it was just them. Like, when you really have to stand in your own truth, and not just in your own truth, like, you're standing for your community, but sometimes we'll leave you out there hanging.
Many times.
Had moments like that. I know Zernell Hurston must have had a moment like that.
Yes.
Think about men who I really respect and study, and like, you can love Black people so much that you know you're gonna be out there by yourself. You know you're gonna have to go this road by yourself. And so sometimes when I think about that humming, that's almost like you in your own communion with yourself, because sometimes there's no words to tell people. I remember one of Malcolm X's speeches when he said he only picks on you because he's a bully and he know you're not gonna fight him back. And he was basically talking about just Black folks stand and not, like, always take the blame or something. Like, you have to, at some point, you have to stand. Reading about Zornell Hurston towards the end of her life and how she was living and how people were burning her books.
Yes.
We glorify you when you're dead. We loving you, but when they were alive, that's the real cross that's bared. When people love you and we make you into this, here's this great person, but we don't think about part of your greatness is when you have to stand alone.
Yep.
I mean, physically, not like in the spiritual with your ancestors. I get that, but there's something about when you have to stand alone and you can't even verbalize to your people what the hell that really means.
I think if we look at, you get information you get a download, you get an awakening, an awareness that I just thought of Bob Marley, of what's to come, or how we can move to a higher height. Malcolm, all of them, they saw things that the average person at the time, we see it now. Everybody loves Malcolm now. They didn't love him so much when he was alive.
Ooh.
See? So,
Yeah.
because he saw something and he was willing to stand in his truth and power and in his knowing and verbalize what it was and share that information with us to wake us up. And there are people doing that now, and we are not listening to them either because we're not there. We're not there yet. They're ahead of the time. They're ahead of Zora Neale Hurston, her works. People are reading them now. Well, why wasn't somebody reading them 50 years ago? You know, and giving the woman her due so that she wouldn't have to die a pauper.
Right.
And alone.
That's so true.
I mean, actually, we kind of did the same thing to Dr. Ben.
Yeah. That's what we thought.
You know, and now everybody looking at Dr. Ben's work. This Dr. Ben's this, Dr. Ben's that. You know, that's. I wonder how the ancestor feels about that after they have transitioned and they realize that their people now understand what they were trying to say all of that time. I wonder, I'd like to talk well, I guess I'll get my opportunity soon enough, but I'd like to talk to them to find out how they feel about that. Well, they probably feel so that's the way it's supposed to be. You know, I did the work I came to do, but that's frustrating to me.
I like to think that maybe they knew some of us, no matter what the number is, could have gotten it. You know, they did leave things that people, you know, because sometimes you leave things not for the generation you're in at the moment, it's you're 2 generations down the line. You know, you get information as you really need it and as you're ready.
Yeah, yes.
So Malcolm didn't start out as Malcolm. He started out as Red. Like, you know, you know what I mean? He had to come to it. I was on a call earlier, and there was a lot of educators online, which was awesome for black folks. I said to myself, Malcolm X not known for having no PhD. He was known for taking his street smarts and mixing them in with divine instruction and bringing what he bought. That's what he's known for. He's really not known for he was the best educator. He went into schools and educated kids. That's not what he was known for. He educated more people who had to come out of those places and needed something to stand on so they could grow and who they were as human beings. And so I think sometimes that's a reward that's not measured by how we do rewards in this life.
Exactly. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Our reward really isn't in this life anyway. Really.
Yeah.
We made a contract or an agreement to come here to do whatever it. So Malcolm made that contract to come here and go. He had to go through his red days to get to his Malcolm X days. That was part of his journey. And he fulfilled his journey. And that's what we all do not to some degree. That's what we all do. We hopefully you fulfill your purpose for being here.
I know. I was just gonna say. I also think though, even him as being red is what he still activated when he was Malcolm X. Like the way he organized the street.
Because
that as Malcolm Little. I mean, he had to. Because I think you can take from all of those experiences.
Yes.
He used to be, I hate to say it like this, if he was a prostitute, I'm just giving you this example. And even though you going to work, sometimes you may have to revert just a little bit back to that time when he was that way because the mission is bigger. You may not do it in the same format. You understand what I'm saying? Because all happens, if you never did it before, it's like, that's what somebody said. If you ain't never killed somebody, then you really can't talk to me about what it means to kill somebody.
Right.
You ain't never
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. With Malcolm, he was able to bring those brothers in the way he did because he knew those brothers because they were him.
Right.
You know, he wouldn't have been able to do that if with a different kind of background. He would have probably been more out of the head. But he was able to articulate the purpose and the story to the brothers on the corner, because that's where he used to hang out himself, on the corner. So they spoke the same language.
Right on.
Yeah.
Now, I could go out on the corner, they wouldn't listen to me at all.
What'd you say here about the play?
I was in the way he spoke to people. He could connect with them because he knew who they were.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the thing. Like most, I don't know. I'm not gonna say. I'm not even go there. What I'm gonna say is this: you can't talk to people that you're not willing to get to know. And so, if you are so high and mighty and pious, and this goes for any spiritual tradition or religion, and you so pious, you can't. That everything you say is so golden that can't nobody really even hear you. Malcolm was instrumental in the popularity of the Nation of Islam because he talked to Black people where they were and had them understand their importance where they were. Like it's not, you don't have to go through all, you need this information to have a better life, but right now you are valuable.
Right on.
And as a community, we can become more valuable, more self-sufficient, more effective if we do these things together. And that was the appeal. Like, it wasn't about come climb up on the mountaintop with me. I'm up here talking down to you.
No, that's real.
I'm up here talking down to you about this faraway God. Like, it wasn't one of those situations. It was just more centered on the people that he was talking to because he had walked their walk. He walked with the people. He lived with the people. He had been with the people. And so he knew what the benefits were of transforming your life from that space to the spaces that he walked into. Like, he could speak to everyone who was where he had been. And he had been a lot of places that a lot of people wouldn't even dare go. That's real talk.
And he remained humble.
Right.
He remained humble.
Yeah. And like we talk about how the spirit of the ancestors is alive in the church, in Black churches, it's those things that are translatable. You know, those are connections. Those are ways that we connect with each other. Regardless if you go or if you stay here, look, we're still connected. It don't matter. And then you're not recruiting, so to speak. You're just saying, look, here, I got this over here. Now, if you think you need this, come over here. You already got this. You know what I'm saying? And that humility, like Iyas said, that humility goes miles in communication because, you know, when you're talking down to somebody, that's like disdain. And they say that's the one thing in human relationships you can't get over.
That's so true.
And it's why so many marriages end in divorce, because it's the minute that somebody talks to the other person with disdain. Like, you ain't as good as me, you ain't gonna never be as good as me, and look what I know that you don't know. Then that's not really communicating, because that's a one-way street. After that, you already told me what I said don't mean nothing, so why should I even respond?
That's real cool. I also feel like Malcolm or I said El Hajj Malik El Shabazz. I have to slow it down. I think we also believe in redemption. Let me clarify what I say. One thing I really loved about Malcolm, he knew what he had been at one point in his life, and he never tried to skip over it. Like just see now, he knew he had to also clear that up
Yeah.
by the work that he was doing. Because too often I see a lot of black people act like slavery was an expense. That's what I was then. No, dude, you screwed up some people's psyche, and now you have to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what it means to be a god. Like you have to take responsibility because we love to say we gods and you still have to deal with that. No matter what the circumstance that brought you to that, you still have an obligation to fix that. You have to
Mm-hmm.
remember the things you did when you didn't know supposedly who you were. That's still a part of you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And
You
that's
still
when
have,
Yeye said atonement.
yeah, atonement,
Mhm.
right on. And he to me he did that like so like man, like he lit so many fires.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't do it from a place of like, well, that's and when I was that person, I wasn't me. He was like, no, I have to atone for that because along the way I hurt some people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
work hard to bring balance to how I lived my life. And sometimes we don't do that. We act like I think that's the hardest part I have about being born again. It's like you ain't got to rectify shit. That's it.
Right.
Like
You
what?
don't say
What?
something to nobody. You never
Right?
say
You
it.
ain't got right. You ain't got to be
Now
like,
you
well,
say we
because
supposed to just
maybe
be
I
like,
robbed
okay.
some people. Maybe I can make sure people get something back in a different form. You know what I mean? But I always struggle with that. I ain't gonna lie. I'll be like, I just don't. You just gonna stand up and that's it? Like what the fuck? What? Who is this invisible person that took all your sins away? I like to meet this motherfucker. That's how I would be feeling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're gonna engage in rational thinking a lot of times in our spirituality. We just be mashing on people like we're truckers. We just be trucking people left and right when it comes to that zeal. It'll have you out of your mind. It's just like being freshly high on something. Oh, that's my
Mm-hmm.
first. Now you're drinking every day until you start getting sick. Then you stop drinking so much. But in any drug, put any drug there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those things where I feel like okay, well, what people are calling it now is shadow work.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's Cliff Barry.
Is being able to accept and understand both sides of your coin, right? Because
Exactly. Yeah.
whatever it is that you're growing through is a process. You're not going to just one day be born again, um, come into the nation, or get initiated, and then all your foolishness just melts away. That's not how it works. You still, it's not how it works. It's a process, right? Because you can't really people say once a crackhead, always a crackhead. It's like even though you have dealt maybe with an addiction, it's still an addiction. So you don't want to go back there. Like you're not gonna go. You're not gonna get initiated and then start smoking crack again. Like it don't affect me. I can handle my drugs now. It's not that type of
Right.
thing.
Uh-huh.
And that's kind of like the
That's so
attitude
beautiful.
that we take. Like there's no cure all. This is all about activating your own ashe. It's about you being on a spiritual journey, forming these spiritual relationships to support you. There's not a shortcut. That's the thing.
That's
Like
it.
every time I meet someone who acts as if they take the posture that they know everything about the tradition. Anything you say, they like, oh yeah, that's such and such, and they always correcting people, no matter so super critical and all of that. Then you're supposed to insert the right information if you have it, but it's impossible for one person to know everything.
That is so true.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
You can't know everything about the human experience. You can't know everything. You don't even know everything about yourself.
You got that right.
You know what I mean? Because that's what spiritual development is. As we continue to learn about different things, we continue to learn more about ourselves. We find new talents and treasures within ourselves, and then it's our job to begin to manifest those things in our lives. You're not gonna ever finish. So if we don't carry the humility and that understanding and being truthful with one another, like we're violating right there off top.
Right on.
You know. And that's the beauty of like Malcolm. No matter what he went through, he still was, and that was me. Sleeping with a white woman. That was me.
That's
Taking the drug. That was me relaxing my hair. That was me, and now I'm doing this.
Yep.
I know. You were so right. You were so right. So definitely pay homage to our dear ancestor. And I don't know. It's been a good day. At 2:00, we talked with some people out of the East around Malcolm X and that whole thing. I think the other thing, I'm just gonna go ahead. I think when people expose you to something that they do something, doesn't mean you have to take your whole life and give them credit for the work you had to do for you.
Yeah.
So like even when I'm talking to them, like, Miss Mo, you up? I said, well, no, I was doing what I was supposed to do. You really did the work.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's like somebody opening the door for me, and I have to keep saying, "Take it from the door." Like, no, I was supposed to open the door.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you take the ego out of it. To me, that's all ego. And he was a man who was willing to put it all on the line because of what he truly believed in his spirit that we needed. Nina Simone did the same thing. She really believed in Black power. I don't know if y'all seen what happened to Simone, but I've always studied her. But I was like, she really went all the way to the wall. She went all the way to the cliff and jumped off.
Yeah. And
of course, we wasn't there to catch her because who ended up taking care of her in the end? White people. Just gonna be honest, because she has some mental health issues. You know? And so, and she was brilliant. You know, that's the other thing, that she was super brilliant, super talented. But it can be a strain having to always think of the next steps. You know what I mean? I mean, some of us, we love you when you're great, but we don't love you when we start seeing the cracks in your brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure. I can think of a lot of people like that. I think of Eartha Kitt, what she went through with, what was it, Lyndon Johnson, his wife, and being blackballed and all of that. I can think of Josephine Baker. Who buried Josephine Baker? The queen. What's the name? And Monaco, the Princess Grace. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, but that's our contract.
I agree with the contract, but I wish that we on the other side have a different response to it.
I wish we did too.
We gotta stop leaving people who sacrifice blowing in the wind.
Blowing in the wind. Blowing in the wind.
We love his win. We should do. And then when people do it, you won't be there to back them up.
See, that's the thing. We get cold feet and we just leave people out there doing whatever it is that they're doing, and we just don't go to bat for them. You know, and we're so much stronger when there are many of us than when there's just one of us standing out there. But I guess
that's the coolest part of it, is that we never I'm not gonna say never. What I'm saying is that we often fail to realize that our strength is in banding together.
Right on.
That's right.
You know what I mean? It's so much easier to do everything if it's a coordinated effort. When we work together, we accomplish quantum leaps, really, in progress. Not only for ourselves, but for everybody. That's just how it works.
Yes.
For us. And if we could do it consistently, then, you know, it's going to build a different foundation. But that's the reason also we understand too, like our history, people who learn from our history know that when we band together, then there's danger immediately. That we are in immediate danger. But we're still getting picked off one by one.
Yep.
So
We might, yeah,
you
yeah.
wanna die by yourself in a room full of enemies. Like, what? I don't understand what we think we're accomplishing by not working together, because that's not, it's not helpful. Now, the other part of it is that a lot of times there's trust involved. Like, we don't trust each other, so you feel like it would be less painful for me to be injured by someone who was not connected to me rather than someone who is connected to me. I mean, it's got a lot of layers, and none of it is an excuse. Like, we just have to make the choice to properly tend our security and work together. And then we will become effective. Like, we definitely can do a lot more together than we can just one person working.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the lessons that you all have personally learned from your ancestors? Lessons that you really was like, wow, like that's something I learned that I applied in my life.
Um, uh, I was trying to think of the exact. Oh, one thing that my grandmother taught us all: what's for you, you get, good, bad, or indifferent. And so it took me a long time to really understand that. But once I was able to grasp what she was saying, um, if it's for you, no one can steal your blessings. The only thing that can happen is you can block them. You can block them, but nobody can steal your blessings. If it's meant for you to be the next wonder in entertainment or hip hop or whatever, then that's what you're going to be. You got to do the work now. It's not going to just fall out of the heavens on you. You got to do the work. But in that work, you will find your success, if that's what you're supposed to be. And if that is not for you, there's a reason for that. To be thankful that it's not for you, because you might get in that business and get torn apart limb from limb, because that's a dirty business. I'm talking to my granddaughter now. But you know, they want to get into that business. That's all well and good, but if it's for you, good, bad, or indifferent, you don't have to worry. Do the work, and the blessings will come upon you. That's the same thing with the Orisha and being part of Ifa. The Orisha call you. They choose you. But you got to do your part. They can be calling you and calling you and calling you. But if you ain't listening and obeying, then sometimes they got to knock you upside the head.
What about you, Ifa?
Trust myself.
Yeah.
So that's been my biggest lesson. And I mean, it's something that I find another place where I have to like clean up some shit, because in the beginning I knew to trust myself and I didn't. And so it's been a big, I mean, huge one for me. Like, to learn that when you get a reading, if something doesn't resonate, just hold off. Yeah. And that's a controversial one, because some people say, oh, just do it and the feeling to come later or whatever. If it ain't nothing wrong with your head, then you need to trust yourself, because everybody's not telling you the truth all the time. A lot of what we think is spiritual is political.
Yeah. Yep.
It's political, and it people can't help but be influenced by it,
Mm-hmm.
and that includes all humans that are also diviners.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? That includes humans that are diviners. So it's one of those situations where people have told me things that I need to be doing based on the fact that I'm initiated without an understanding of my Odu. Just blanket generalizations that they have laid over women in the tradition,
Mm-hmm.
all types of things. And none of that worked for me. And sometimes I would do things just in an effort to be doing the right thing, right? That's why I always say guard against trying to be too pious, because your religion is your ori. That's your first religion. Like, you don't have no this the thing about African spirituality, which I think is the reason why me in particular, out of everyone in my family, um, got to be initiated, was because um, it's following my own intuition has saved my life.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? In places where I knew there was danger, and then places where I later found out there was danger. That sometimes doing the thing that's uncomfortable, and it's uncomfortable because you know it's going to make other people uncomfortable, is the thing that you have to do for your life. Like, it's for yourself, and it is true that you're the only person that can block your blessings. And this, from my understanding, is the primary way that we do it. When we don't pay attention to our own ori, you can block everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's your first divinity. That's your first Orisha. That's the Orisha that's not gonna ever leave you. Is your head. Like, I don't know how else to say it. Like, I'm using terms from Ifa or from African spirituality, but I just want to land this with all women, whether or not you are in an African spiritual tradition or not. It's so important that we pay attention to our own intuition. Like, this is the way that God speaks to us, but it's also a way that God speaks to the world. Like, for these intuitive hits that we get bring information without explanation, which
Mm-hmm.
tends to be problematic for us. But we have to get used to it. We have to practice. It's a practice, right?
Yes.
Spirituality is a practice, and so we have to practice following those intuitive hits. When you get curious about something, one thing I know about Mama Ro, she get curious about something, she researches it and sees where, if it leads to some action, the call to action is going to be in the curiosity. It's in there somewhere. So some
Mm-hmm.
days when I just wake up with a thought about something that I don't know nothing about, I'll just get on my computer and Google it. It'll take me someplace else. Then it'll take me someplace else. And then I'll be like, oh, that's that thing I was wondering about. And it's
Yeah.
because everything is interconnected.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
recognize that that's how the universe is made. Then we'll begin to understand it. But it's the information that we're given in the moment that's the most important thing for us to begin to start to translate that into for ourselves. Like, what does that mean to you? When you have a dream, a lucid dream, what do those things mean to you? Because you're the one that had the dream.
Dream. Exactly.
So the spiritual significance is not what somebody else says it means. It's what those things mean to you. You know what I mean? You can be helped by other people. You can be helped by research. I'm not saying those things are without value. They definitely have value. And sometimes that information will lead you to a better understanding of how something in your past is impacting your present. But remember, you're the temple. And worship in your own temple, from your own consciousness, and then you'll see where you go next. But you can't grow if you're not going to even be where you at.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's all. Did I answer your question?
No, right on.
Trust.
It was
Yeah.
right on. Everything you said was right on. Um, I think the one thing I keep learning from my ancestors is to study them.
Mm.
Study them. I mean, every time I look at history, I feel like I'm standing in it. Like this happened in 1920. This is happening today. Like what? What did they do then? What worked? What didn't work? So I keep
Mm-hmm.
having this overwhelming, kind of like study them. Study,
Mm-hmm.
particularly in my own mind. I get that. So, ladies, thank you. This has been a great conversation today. Love,
Always, always, always.
loved it. All right, y'all. We are signing off, and we
Okay.
will talk with you all tomorrow.
Yeah, see you tomorrow. Love you.
I'm trying to get my little. So if you haven't, please subscribe to us on YouTube, Earth Mama Network. We're also on Twitter and of course on Facebook. Family, support us so we can keep bringing you this great content. Hit the subscribe button. Go like the page so every time we're on, you'll see us. You can be a part of this awesome conversation. And we will see you all tomorrow. Bless.